Hey buddy, it's Chris here, welcoming you to another episode of the Casual Flipper Podcast. Today I'm going to dive into profit triggers using Scoutly. Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to, hop into Scoutly, which is the app that I use to scan books. Well, I don't use the app to scan books. I use my Bluetooth scanner to scan the books, but this app is what tells me whether or not a book is profitable or not. It tells me the sales rank. It tells me the potential profit. It tells me how many competitive people are in there, FBA or merchant fulfilled. So it's incredibly helpful. The triggers can be a little tricky though, so I'm going to go through those each section to educate you a little bit and help you make your own triggers based on what your strategy is or what your KPIs are for what makes a buy or a sell. And what your triggers are essentially the algorithm that it will use to indicate to you purchase this book or do not purchase this book. And this should be used as a guide when you're out there because it's not always going to be perfect. Sometimes you'll get a buy when maybe you don't want to buy because the app can't tell you the condition of the book, right? So it is a guide, but it's a very precise guide. And there are different types of triggers you can use. There's advanced triggers, basic triggers, and then profit triggers. Today, I'm going to discuss with you profit triggers because that's where my focus is. So the first thing you're going to want to do is open the app, go to your settings, and at this time, based on whichever update is out when you do this, but at this time, use profit trigger is the very first setting under display. So you want to make sure that that is turned on. So just go to the settings and turn on use profit trigger. Your next step is going to be click the three little lines in the top left corner, then pick profit trigger, then click book. And this will bring you into your book triggers, which by default, I think there's 15 of them at least turned on. Me specifically, I only use 4, but this will vary from person to person. So I'm not telling you these so you can take mine, which you certainly can. I don't mind at all. But I think the main reason I'm telling you this information is that so you can make your own because I used someone else's at first and it wasn't quite what I was looking for. So I'm going to go through these. I use 4, but don't feel bad if you want 2 or 1 or 5 or maybe you do want those 15. And I'll also add quickly here that I've changed my triggers probably 15 different times because as I learned what each thing meant, it led me down a different direction. So you might change your triggers a lot. That's a part of the learning progress. It's normal. I'll probably change them a few times still from even what I have now. And the ones I have now I feel work pretty well for me, but I probably will update them in the near future. So anyway, you've gone in, you're on your book triggers now. So first thing you're going to want to do is maybe unselect them all. So you have no triggers at this time. And to do that, you click the number and it will highlight itself blue and then unhighlight itself to gray. So when it is gray, it is turned off. So the very first category is how soon to sell. What this means is how soon the item will get sold. There's 2 things to determine this: days with sales or sales rank. Days with sales is the number of days this item has sold in the last however much. So if you put 186, that's the last 6 months. And sales rank is Amazon's proprietary algorithm to indicate when the item was sold last time. So the higher the sales rank, when I say higher, I actually mean the lower the number. So the better the sales rank, the more quickly the item has sold in the last 6 months. So in this first section, you're basically trying to figure out, what's your bottom line in terms of how many days with sales you want in the last 6 months. So what I've put is 15. So I want 15 sales within the last 6 months. So where it says days with sales, I have 15. And then in the next spot, I have 186. So 15 sales within the last 6 months is where I'm happy. And then under sales rank, I have 1 to 200,000. So this means that essentially this trigger set up for very fast moving books. So anything within the first 200K is going to sell very quickly. 15 days with sales is almost irrelevant because it's for sure going to have that if it's in that first 200K. And then the next thing is usual average sales rank. I have yes. At one point, my stand on this was, I want to know what it is right now, but actually, I want to know what the average is because of things like Christmas and whatever. Sales ranks will get a big boost, but then most of the time, it might be very bad. It would be a poor seller. So this is going to give me an average. So I want to make sure that I have that turned on personally for that reason. So this next one, I'm I have a different stand on this than what a lot of people do. So most videos would tell you just forget about this, it's not important, which I agree with for the most part. So section 2, limit max offer numbers and min price. The reason that I kind of like this one for later triggers, like on my 4th trigger, is because if I'm going to be buying a more risky book, so a book that has, is over 1 million or 2 million, is I want to make sure that if it does sell, I want to be that seller, so I can have it set that there's only 1 or 2 people selling that book. And then I also want it to be a good profitable book. So I don't want to sell a $7 book that's 4 million sales rank. Like if I'm selling a book that's 4 million sales rank, I want it to be at least $35. So minimum MF price, you can set it to being $29.99, $49.99, and that's the price that the book will be minimum. And then max offers, so you can set that to that there's only 2 people selling this book, or you can even have it 1, or you can have it that the only way you'll sell a book in the 4 million sales rank is if you're the only one selling it. So for the most part, I do not touch this unless it's in the later triggers. So if this is a trigger that you're looking to work with, number 2, limit max offer numbers and min price. Under max offers, you can change that to 2 or 3, which is the amount of sellers on that listing. And then minimum MF price, you can put a limit to the minimum price you want that book to go for, whether it's $19.99, $24.99, or what have you. So if a book sells for $9.99 and there is no one selling it, you could be the only one. You will get a reject because it's not at least $19.99. Moving on to the 3rd, which is select a target price. This is very important. This is probably, arguably the most important part of the whole thing, other than the sales rank. So when you're selecting a target price, it's which price the algorithm is going to determine your profit based off of. So this is where the magic happens, and this is where everyone is probably going to have different theories or ideas or different stances on this. There's FBA offer to evaluate 3.1, 3.2 used offer to evaluate, and 3.3 offer to evaluate. So I think this is where a lot of people get confused. What this is saying in 3.1 FBA offer to evaluate is if there's a fulfilled by Amazon offer on there, say there's 6 of them, if you select number 1, it's going to evaluate based on the lowest price. If you pick number 2, it's going to evaluate on the second lowest price. Now, the higher the sales rank, in theory, you don't need to drive that price down. So if it's a very fast selling book, you might want to evaluate the 2nd or 3rd because those other ones will sell very quickly. Now, personally, I always have it set on the first one because I want to know what the lowest price is right now. And this is why I use it as a guide, is that I'll look at the lowest price and I'll say, okay, that's a little ridiculous. And then I'll, in my own head, look at the 2nd and 3rd. But for the most part, if the book is popular and moves quickly, you don't necessarily need to be the lowest offer. That is true. I personally have this set to number 1 so I can see what that lowest offer is. And the next one, 3.2, used offer to evaluate. So if there's no FBAs, then it will look at merchant fulfilled offers. And then, it'll pick one of those. So a lot of people will have this set to last because FBA, you're paying a premium to have it prime. So a lot of the times people will have a set that it will evaluate the last offer and base your profit on that. But I don't like doing this because some people will just put ridiculously high prices on books and they'll throw it in there in hopes it'll sell in the next year or 2. And now my algorithm is set to look at that price, so you'll get profits. So say you're going to make potentially $200-$300 on a book when there's 50 other people selling it for much less than that. So on this one, I think it's safe to look at your used offers maybe at the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, evaluate based on that. And like I said, this is a guide to me, so it's not the be all end all. I just want it to ding or make a noise for books that I need to inquire on. Moving on to the 4th trigger is if you want to target the buy box, this is where you would do that. If you click use buy box price is lower, Then if used buy box price is lower than the current target price, then it will lower the target price to match the buy box price. So I personally have it set up to raise my price if the buy box is higher, which is the second option on that list. Moving on to number 5 is how discounted do you want to be based off Amazon or the buy box. Personally, I have 10% off Amazon, 5% off new buy box. And then from here, you just set the color you want the stream to come up as, and then which sound you want. I have it the same for everything, but you can set it the different sounds up for different triggers. So if you have a sales rank that's in, your fourth trigger that's 4 million and has very strict requirements, you might make a booyah noise for that one. Anyway, make sure you do click the back button because this will actually save those triggers. If you just close the app, they will not save. And one thing that I did not talk about really quickly was number 6, which is the minimum target profit. I have 225 in there based on FBA, which is something you definitely want to set. And that's just my bare minimum on very high selling books, just 225, nothing crazy, but you can set that as high as you want. And the way I look at this is the reason that I only have 4 triggers set up is I have 1 to 200K, which is like very fast moving things. And then I have 200K to 500, which is like fast movement, but not as fast. And then from there, I have 500 to 900K and then 900K to 3 million. Those are just the ranges that I deal in. And with each one of those, I set up my triggers a little bit differently. As the sales rank gets worse, I want my profit to be higher is kind of my thought process behind that. And another little tip here, one thing to keep in mind is when you're scanning in the top right corner, it says COGS, which is your cost of goods. So you can actually edit this. So if you're somewhere where all books cost roughly $3, you can put that in and it'll add that cost on top of everything, which is super helpful. Anyway, guys, I hope this episode had some value to you. I know triggers can be a little tricky setting up at the beginning, so hopefully this helps a little bit. Any questions, please reach out to me, The Casual Flipper on Instagram, Casual Flipper on Twitter, and I'm also on TikTok. And please reach out if you have any questions. I'm always here for you. Have a good one.